In 1977, a small factory in Colvin, Leicester got to work on something that would change the lives of countless people. Little did they realise that people were still caring enough 40 years later to sit and listen to a guy waffle on about that product. This is the Star Wars Toy Podcast. Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Toy Podcast. On this week's show, we have a special collecting chat with Dave Clark.
Hiya, you okay?
Thank you for coming on this week's podcast. So before we start a collecting chat, I just thought the listeners might like to get to know you. So I've come up with 10 questions. Don't worry, it's not going to be a quiz or anything like that. So are you up for that?
Yeah. I'll try.
So number 1, what is your first Star Wars memory?
1977, Christmas. It had just been released in the UK. I think it came out just after Christmas. So it was during the Christmas holidays, 1977. I'd never been to a cinema before. I was 4 years old. And it just, I remember so much about it. I remember seeing one of my dinner ladies, because I'd only started school that year. I remember seeing one of my dinner ladies in the queue. And I remember the chalk ices. There was like an interval, and they gave chalk ices out partway through it. But yeah, I think it's imprinted into my memory. I'd never been to a cinema before. I don't know if it was everything together.
I think we can all relate to that being your first cinema experience. So question number 2, what is your favourite outfit?
Oh, okay. I have a collection of helmets. And the one that I'm missing that I would love to have is a Phase 2 Captain Rex. So potentially I would say Captain Rex Phase 2 armour, to be honest.
That's interesting. That's something I didn't think you'd come up with. So number 3, what is your favourite lightsaber?
Darth Maul's. No ifs, no buts with that one.
Yeah, I thought you'd come up with that one. Number 4, we have what is the weirdest thing in Star Wars?
What's the weirdest thing?
Could be a creature, character, or even a situation.
What's the weirdest thing of Star Wars?
Bit of a curveball question, I know.
Okay, I'll throw a curveball response back on that one. It's not something within the story itself, and it's not something in the films. It's the weirdest thing about Star Wars is how it's managed to capture such a loyal fan base for 40 years. I don't know of any other movie that has the same type of fan base. I'd say that's the weirdest thing. It managed to do something no movie before or after has managed to do.
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree with that. Right then, on to question 5. What is your favourite moment?
Wow, again.
Yeah, I know, another curveball. I like to keep you on your toes.
Okay, it is Phantom Menace end fight sequence between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan to Duel of the Fates. It's just such a perfect combination of music, choreography, theatre, drama, all at the same time. So well put together.
I think you just answered question 6, which is your top soundtrack.
Right, Duel of the Fates. I do like the Imperial March, but no, Duel of the Fates.
I think I can see a pattern forming here. So question 7. If you was wanting to go on holiday in the Star Wars universe, which planet would you go to?
For a holiday. So as I'm a tourist.
Yep, which planet would you have a vacation on?
Oh, possibly Coruscant.
Wow, interesting.
Centre of the Republic and the Empire.
I wasn't really expecting that, but I can see your point. Next up, what is your favourite quote?
Oof. I've got a really bad feeling about this.
Nice one. So, number 9, I think I know the answer to this. What is your favourite character?
Maul. Maul. Yeah.
And finally, what's your favourite movie?
Favorite movie? It's Star Wars, the original, prior to it being branded New Hope.
Of course, that's where it all started. So that's it for the questions. Well done.
They were better than I thought they were going to be. Some interesting ones, to be honest.
Yeah, like I say, just keeps you on your toes, and we just get a feel of who you are. So let's start with our collecting chat. It's going to be another question, I'm afraid. Would you like to tell us about your collection and what you collect?
Where to start? I've got somewhere in the region of 500 pieces, plus about another 200 books, maybe 200 books of comics. Well, when I say comics, it's like the graphic novels.
Yeah, the comic books.
So not actually just the comics, if that makes sense. Uh, and they range from, I've got, oh God, Imperial Guard from Return of the Jedi, 1984. I've got a Scout Walker from 1982. All the way through to the modern day Black Series and modern Lego sets. So I do and I don't have particular focuses, if that makes sense. I've not gone out and tried to get everything of a set bar a couple of smaller sets. It's more a case of things that interest me and things that have piqued my interest. So one of the few sets that I've got almost everything in it is the modern Bandai movie realizations, the Samurai range,
All right.
which they're about 7 inches, so they're slightly bigger than the Black Series. Comparable maybe to the Kabuki Yara, I don't know how you pronounce it, the Artifacts range. Similar scale to that. Um, they're not the cheapest. I mean, you're looking at prices ranging about 80 to £100 for one of them. Similar to the Hot Toys, they'll come with like multiple hands. Some of them got multiple attachments. Um, they're all Japanese themed, which I know that when the original movies were put together, Japanese was did feature in some of the ideas and what have you that went into the creation of Star Wars with Vader's helmet and also the idea of the when you see the way that Obi-Wan and Darth Vader fought in the original movie, it was very much like the kendo sticks. Um, so I know that the samurai way and things like that had featured quite heavily in a lot of the thoughts going behind Star Wars. But it's nice to see them then, the actual figures themselves repositioned as samurai figures. So I've got the likes of a Darth Vader, I've got Boba Fett, Jango Fett. One of the more unusual ones is a C3PO, who's obviously not a warrior, and he comes with a fan rather than any weapon.
Cool.
Yeah, almost like a geisha style fan. There's a Darth Maul in that, and he comes with a mask, so you can either have I think his two heads are either a skull head or a demon mask that you can fit onto his head. They're very. I'd suggest anybody that doesn't have it, just or has never seen them, just do a quick Google, try and find out about them. They're a stunning range, and I've got 10, I think, and there's not that many. I'm missing a variant Darth Vader, and I've seen a Sand Trooper officer. I've got a Sand Trooper Sergeant, and I've seen a Sand Trooper Officer, but I think that was a Japanese only, so I've never seen it in Japan. So yes, that's one. I think one miniature small part of my collection that I really do like.
Sounds like you've got a wide range of licenses.
I'm trying to think. God, yeah, I've I've got quite a wide range of Lego sets from quite early ones. The original pod race. Uh, yeah,
Those were the 1999 sets.
yeah, it was. Yeah, the 20-year anniversary this year of the Star Wars Lego.
Yep.
Um,
And that actually saved Lego.
it did. It did. Um, and I think Lego used the model of that and then have branched out with the Harry Potter and Marvel and all of the other brands that they now do.
Yeah, they have lots of different licenses now.
Yeah, they've done really well out of that. Yeah. I also another range I particularly like is the Diamond Select quarter scale, ultimate quarter scale.
All right.
So they are 18-inch figures. Uh, I would say comparable to Sideshow Hot Toys for a lot better value. You can pick them up. There's only 9 in the range. I've got 5 of them. And they were released in probably about 7-10-year-old now. The license is no longer with Diamond Select, so that's it. You've got this run of 9, and there'll never be any more made. But I've got a
Were those the ones that talked?
They do, yes. Oh,
Yeah, I had a couple of those. I did Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, the Mace Windu.
yeah. Well, I've got the Darth Maul and the Mace Windu. The Mace Windu, I've got the Sideshow Mace Windu from a similar age. So I know that the quality of the Sideshows is much better today, but I've got the Mace Windu from the Jedi Order range. And he's wearing exactly the same costume as the Diamond Select one. But I just think that the quality of the moulding of the Mace Windu head and what have you is so much better on the Diamond Select. Maybe it's because it's a slightly larger scale. I don't know, but it's so much better quality. I'm just having a look. I can see the majority of my collection in front of me at the moment. It's just like what next? I've got some of the artifacts range. Not loads, about 8-10 of them. I've got an animatronic Yoda who tells stories. If you squeeze his palms, his ears twitch, his eyes move, he talks, his mouth moves. He's almost like he's got a latex face that moves. It's fantastic, really good. He's a little bit arthritic these days, and he makes a bit of a whirring noise, but he still does work.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and I've got a Scout Trooper on speeder bike, which is a phenomenal piece when you consider the size of the speeder bike.
Oh, that's massive.
It is. But I've got the matching Luke as well in Endor battle gear. I've got Han Solo on Tauntaun. I've got the Wampa Luke double set. I've got the entire modal nodes, all 6 of them.
Sounds like you've got a lot of space.
It's at the point where my wife is now saying you can't get any more. It's either no more or we have to, I don't know, maybe extend the house.
Get that extension built.
I know. Well, I've got 2 younger boys, so I can position it on the basis that if we get an extension, yeah, the kids have got more space, and they're now getting their homeworks. They're going to high schools, so it's like, well, they need space to do their homework. It's like everybody wins.
Exactly.
But I think she's caught on to yeah. I think she's caught on to what I'm up to.
Sounds like you've got an understanding wife. So let's go back to 1977 and 78. What was your first ever figure?
Was probably Return of the Jedi figures, to be fair. I don't remember having figures when I was really little. I I joke about it. I'm a poor boy from a poor family. That pretty much sums up me growing up. So yeah, money. I think that possibly is even why I remember going to the cinema had such a big impact. 'Cause we didn't do it often. Even after going that time, I think the next time we went was to watch Empire, and then the next time to watch was to watch Return of the Jedi. So um, it wasn't something that happened a lot in my childhood. So maybe that's why it has imprinted so much. Possibly it was Klaatu
Oh, wow.
from Return of the Jedi. Uh, yeah, and I also had because I also then also had the Gamorrean Guard. I had the Nikto Skiff Guard. I had the Lando in Skiff Guard armor. So yeah, I think it was that age. It was the I've got the 1982 Scout Walker. So yeah, I think it was Return of the Jedi was when I first started picking up pieces or first started receiving, I guess receiving, because I would have been a child still. I would have been what, 10, 11?
Yeah, I think you'll find that majority of us collectors right now are collecting things that we couldn't get as a kid, that
Yes.
we couldn't
No,
afford. And we now have the money to buy those things.
no, I said that to my wife. Um, I've now got to some extent a disposable income, um, and that then allows me to do something I probably never could do as a child.
Yep, exactly.
But actually, the first collectible I've got, it wasn't a toy. It was Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've got that on my bookshelf over here.
Yeah, Alan Dean Foster. That was the first thing that I ever had bought for me by my parents, and it was secondhand when they bought it for me, and I was about 7 or 8 because the edition I've got is a 1978 copy. So I don't know where they got it from, but it wasn't brand new when I got it.
That'll be a first edition then.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
And that book was written just in
It
case Star Wars
is.
flopped and they're going to make a TV movie out of it. That's
Yes,
why Han Solo's not in it. Harrison
yes,
Ford wasn't under contract and didn't know whether they were going to get him back.
that's exactly what it was. Um,
There was a bizarre storyline that we won't go into.
yeah, there's interesting tension, sexual tension, let's say, between Leia and
Slightly.
yeah, which was obviously yeah, slightly inappropriate these days.
We won't go into that. So, did you, like most collectors, have a lull after the Return of the Jedi and up to the Timothy Zahn novels, what we call the Dark Times?
It was, I think, like you said, because there've been the dark times in the UK. I mean, we used to have Star Wars come on pretty much every Christmas or Easter or what have you. So the movies were always still there. Um, there was just nothing new, nothing, and we never thought there would be anything new. And then you'd had some novels done, like you'd had the Brian Daly Han Solo series of books.
Yeah, and the Lando.
Yeah, um, and I think you'd also had Ewok, the Ewoks and droids cartoons.
Yep.
So there was still that type of thing knocking about. But yeah, I think I think the Thrawn novels just completely reignited. Um, the, the books managed to get onto like the New York Times bestsellers list and dominated whilst they were around. I think that just reignited the interest in it. and brought people back to it, people who may have drifted away. It's strange, really, because you have such a long period where it felt like there was nothing, but there were still the toys. You could still pick up the toys. They weren't in the same category. They weren't. It wasn't as big as it became, but there was a period where you'd still see them.
Oh yeah, you can find them in a lot of places.
Yes, you could. You could.
A lot cheaper back then than they are now.
Oh. Well, I must admit, I've listened to a few of your podcasts, and
Oh, thank you.
yeah. You look at the price of some of these figures now.
Oh no, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like I had. I used to have like the Princess Leia as Bush. And I remember I think on one of your recent ones, you was on about the Empire range, and
Oh yeah.
it was Zuckuss and Forlom. So I had.
Oh, let's not go down that road.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I noticed. I remember you saying that he wasn't a particular fan of it, but I had. Because I always thought it was Zuckuss, but you said he was Forlom. Zuckuss with the coat, the almost like the leatherette style coat.
Yep, that's Farlom to me.
You see, I always thought that was Zuckuss.
Nope, that's Farlom. But it's to me anyway.
Well, maybe my perception. Maybe my perception of him has changed then. Yeah, because I remember having him. He was one of my favourite figures.
Yeah, they swapped the names around, but I always go by the original names.
Yes.
So now I'm going to go on to the part of our discussion where I'm going to ask you your opinions on some controversial subjects. The first of that being repro weapons and things like that.
Problem is that it's the weapons that cost a fortune. If you want. Because it's the little add-ons, it's the additional bits. Okay, so a friend of mine, Scott McNair, who's on he's on Facebook, he's on Twitter. He was recently selling an ATST driver. Now, as I said, I've got an original 1982 ATST. He doesn't actually have a driver. So I contacted Scott and just said, yeah, I'm interested. How much? I'm happy to pay. And I asked the question, does he have his weapon with him? And he says, nah, sorry, mate, he doesn't have that. And I did a quick Google just to see how much the weapon is. And it was between $35 and $45 for one. It's just, oh my God, no. My view at that point is, no, he's got an ATST, he doesn't need a pistol.
Yeah, there's one thing about that weapon that gets me. You can get it with Princess Leia, Endor Leia, but the Endor Leia's £40, £40 to £50, but the weapon's 30 to 40. I just don't understand that.
Yes.
That's why I always say buy complete.
I'll do that instead. And so to answer your question, what do I think about repro? I understand why there's a market for it. I understand why it's grown up. It doesn't mean I agree with it, especially because people then get ripped off and people think, because if you don't know what you're buying and you just see one for what you see as a bargain price, let's say I saw this pistol for £20 rather than the £35 to £40 that you'd expect to pay. And it's a case of, right, well, it's only 20 quid. That's better than paying 40 quid. And so you'll end up buying it. You might always think, did I get a good deal there, or have I just been ripped off myself because I've got something that cost him about 10p to mass produce? So, yeah, I understand how it's grown up, but I don't necessarily agree with it.
That's a good answer. I like that. So the next thing I want to ask you about is customs.
So, correct me if I'm wrong here. These are where you've got original figures that have been altered in some way.
Yeah, be the figures that mostly haven't been created yet. Some are pretty good, I must admit.
Which was created, yes.
But there are companies like Smith's Lord Creations that are doing characters that have already been released.
Is that any different to a repro at that point?
Probably not, no. I think you're right there.
Because again, if you was to buy that, would you know the difference without asking the right questions? If that makes sense.
Well, that's my argument entirely there.
Again, so you could argue this with repro because you could legitimately buy a repro. You think, you know what? I've got my ATST. I've now got my ATST driver. I'll pay a fiver for a repro pistol for him. I'll do that. I'll know it's repro. I'll be happy with that. But then you'll have somebody else who'll buy the pistol and then flog it for 40 quid.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So it's not necessarily it's not the legitimate buyers of it. It's the people who then pass it off as something it's not. That's when the issue comes in.
Oh, yeah, then it becomes mass produced. It's like the Princess Leia blaster I had got a couple of years back.
Yeah.
I paid £20 for it when I know they go for £60. And this guy tried to concoct this story that he'd got them from his mum knew this woman that worked for Palatoy and she scraped up all these blasters when they were shutting down. But these blasters are really, really close. And you wouldn't know the difference.
How far off is it then?
Well, it took Imperial Gunnery 6 months to decide that it was a forgery.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they had to research
Oh.
it and just make sure that it wasn't a new variant.
Yes.
So the next thing I want your opinion on is grading.
I've not had any of mine graded, and to be fair, a lot of my vintage ones are the ones I had as a kid. There's a couple that I've picked up over the years, just because I've managed to pick them up. They've been, but they're always played with. The ones I've got have all had. I would use the term a good life, if that makes sense. Um, I can see the reason for grading because it allows people to then sell them um, with and the grading adds value to something because it means it's been independently assessed and this is how much it's worth according to a marketplace. So I can see the benefit of it. If if I was that type of collector, then I guess you would look for certain gradings. You would want the 80 or the 90. You would be looking for that AFA grading because it's a case of that's a measure of how rare the piece is and how immaculate it is. Um, for me, I would say it doesn't matter because it's not a focus of my collection. But again, as with everything, I can see why that bit of the industry has grown up and why it is such a big part of the industry these days. And it's one of the things that drives the value of the MOCs and even the loose figures. To be fair,
Yeah, to be honest with you, I just wouldn't want to send my figures through the post. So I know what they're like.
yeah.
So the next thing I want your opinion on, probably talk about this for hours, is your opinion on Triple Force Friday.
Disappointed, absolutely gutted. Um,
Tell me about it.
um, I had a rant on Twitter over this. I ranted at Disney, ranted at Hasbro. So I live northwest, just north of Manchester, and Triple Force Friday, just by chance, I was off work for the day. I'd had an invitation to go to Sale Sharks for an event there that morning, so I thought, oh, I might as well take the full day off work. So I had the day to myself. I thought Triple Force Friday, fantastic. I've seen everything that's meant to be being released. I was chomping at the bit. I went into the Trafford Centre, not far from where Sale Sharks is. Went into the Disney store and was confronted by Frozen Friday.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Um, I went into John Lewis. John Lewis at least had all the brand new Lego sets. I went into Smith's, closer to home, and I actually had a picture that I took that showed their Star Wars bay that was practically empty. And it was empty. There was a couple of things hanging up on it. And I did tweet, as I said, I had a bit of a rant at Disney UK, Disney, Hasbro UK, Hasbro, and also, to be fair, Smiths, just asking what on earth's happening here? What's happened this Force Friday? Where is everything? And never heard anything from Disney, never heard anything from Hasbro. Surprise, surprise. However, Smiths did respond, and they were really apologetic and they were really good. And I appreciate the fact that they actually reached out to me. Um, they blamed the suppliers.
All right.
They said that the suppliers had not delivered what they were meant to be delivering, and that was their response. I'm assuming they mean suppliers. They mean Hasbro.
Probably, yeah. I know I went online at 1 minute past 12, and there was nothing in stock on the website. And I tried for another couple of weeks after that, and they still had nothing. They probably still don't have anything.
Yes.
But if they're saying it's Hasbro, it's down to their distribution again.
It's almost like Hasbro's not interested outside of the US. It's mainland US. It's mainland US plus got a couple of specialist retailers in the UK who are able to buy from the US, such as Forbidden Planet.
And we pay over the odds.
Outside of that, I think is it Dark Side Toys?
Oh yeah, don't mention them.
Claiming, but I don't know if they've gone bust. There's been a lot of comments.
Yep.
Yeah, as I said, there's been a lot of comments I've seen online about them recently. Well,
I'm still awaiting a package that I ordered in July.
I ordered something myself that I've not yet had. So
I don't want to say anymore.
I didn't. Luckily, I didn't.
I've had no response from them, and I'm currently trying to get my money back.
But yeah, whereas you look at the US, and you've got Black Series in Walmart, you've got Black Series in Target. So the why? This is my. To be fair, I've ranted. I don't know if you're aware, but I am part of a collective of friends called the Jedi Council, and we do our own podcasts and what have you. And I've had a full-on rant about this. It's almost a case of if you're not in the US, you're a second-class citizen. They're not interested. So I've still not seen anything in the wild, to use the term, that was released on Triple Force Friday other than Lego. Lego is the only brand.
Yeah, I went to Argos and they had Lego, but the Disney store didn't have their own brand Lego.
In Lego.
It actually says Disney on the Lego boxes, but they don't sell them in the Disney store.
No, they didn't. Same with me. I went into there. I tell you what Disney store had, which was really depressing. This is becoming a rehash of my my Triple Force Friday rant list. What they did have was one small fixture, and I've got it's a really nice range actually that was released by Disney back in 2014-ish, and they were 16, 17-inch figures, limited articulation, literally moved at the legs, moved at the head, moved at the elbows or shoulders on some of them. But they're all electronic, and they've got buttons on their chest and on their arm that shoot or quote something from the movie. They're a really nice range, actually, really nice range. I've got all of them. I've got the Luke, the Darth Vader, the Chewbacca, the Han Solo, really well sculpted. Especially the head on the Luke is a really good one. When you think the price point was about 20 quid, it's really well sculpted heads, to which I was really impressed. They're re-releasing the same figures but in brand new packaging. That was what Disney had, and they had the Stormtrooper, the Vader, the Boba Fett, and it's a case of it's the same figures you had in 2014. These are 6-year-old figures that you've just repackaged.
They don't care about the Star Wars brand.
I honestly don't know why though, because you look at what Disney are doing, and Disney pushing out really good content now. When you think of the Mandalorian, that's just hit. It's
Oh
really,
yeah, it's fantastic.
uh, so you know that they can make good content. You look at Galaxy's Edge. They spent a hell of a lot of money on Galaxy's Edge. Um, the Jedi Fallen Order, the computer game, just released. Again, I've got a copy of that. It's a phenomenal game. Reminds me of Jedi Outcast, and also the Knights of the Old Republic games. It's that type of puzzle stroke combat first person. It's a very good game. Really, really impressed by
Oh yeah, I've
it.
completed it, and
Uh,
I will be reviewing it probably on next week's podcast.
I've not. I get the feeling it might take me a few months to complete, because I'm trying to explore pretty much everything.
Yeah, I've not done it 100%. I've got 3 worlds at 100%, so I'm just going back to do the rest of them.
But so they're producing really good content. They're investing a lot of money in the likes of Galaxy's Edge, but I don't know. It's I don't know how or why it's well. I've got a theory about why some of it's happened. I think some of it's still a legacy from the Last Jedi. Um,
They did drop the ball with that.
they did badly, and it's one of the reasons put down for Toys R Us demise, because they heavily invested in the Star Wars merchandise and it didn't sell.
I'm not so sure about that. It might be the final nail in the coffin, but Toys R Us have been going down the pan for years now. I know my
Yeah,
local Toys R Us has had the same music for the last 20 years, or did have when before the shut. They just couldn't keep up with the times.
Smiths have managed to stick around, and they've got a very similar format, a very similar approach. If anything, they've got a smaller range. They haven't got as wide a range as Toys R Us used to have, and maybe that's where Smiths have managed to survive, because they've not overextended themselves on too much. Uh, but yeah, I do think that maybe the Last Jedi stung toy retailers, and toy manufacturers, but so I think Lego, because Lego is universal, there's people who will buy Lego who are outside of Star Wars collectors. So and you'll get aunties and uncles or grandparents, wherever you, who will buy Star Wars, who will buy Lego toys for nieces and nephews. So I think there's a universal appeal of Lego outside of Star Wars, which has allowed Lego to carry on. But I think for the action figure ranges, I think The Last Jedi just made manufacturers and retailers nervous about producing and stocking them.
I agree with you there. So finally today, if you could look into the future, what would you think would happen to the Star Wars brand? Do you think any company is going to overtake Hasbro?
Yeah.
The Star Wars license is up next year. I just wondered if you'd think of any company that could take over that license.
I don't think there is any. Not for that type of product. Well, you look at the diversity of what Hasbro have managed to do, and yeah, I hear criticism sometimes around the quality of their products, but okay, so my focus on Hasbro, when I look at my modern stuff, it's the Black Series 6 inches, um, and the quality of them, I'm really impressed by them. They're a decent price point for the quality that you get. The quality of the head sculpts is really good these days. Um, especially the last few movies, like um, Rogue One and Krennic and Solo. Really, really good quality head sculpts. Now they've just brought out the Hyperreal range as well. Well, the first of them. I think the second one's not here yet. And I don't have one of them, but I know friends who do, um, who are massive fans of them. So when Hasbro do it well, they do it very well, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah, and I think Hasbro are really good. I thought that we can get better than them, really. But for me, they just seem to have too many different products.
Yeah.
There's just too many different lines to collect.
Well, one of the strange things I've seen is the vintage range that's come out now.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a little bit strange for me, because it's almost like they're playing on the nostalgia of the original.
The retro collection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about them yet.
And yeah. And it's the type of thing that you'll start to see popping up on the likes of eBay and whatever you, with someone claiming it's an original 1984 or 1982.
My point exactly.
So that's
and the videos you see on YouTube where they show you how to take that sticker off.
Yes.
And even how to slice the bubble open so you can get the instructions out of out from underneath the figure.
They may be well-made figures, and it's a nice nod to nostalgia, but it just runs the risk of damaging the entire toy industry. But I don't know who could step in. You got Hasbro. Is Mattel? Is that a separate company to Hasbro still?
Yeah, that's Hasbro's main competitor.
So
yeah, Mattel are probably one of the only big companies that could take on that license and, well, really afford that license. Do you think there's anybody else out there that could take it on?
Well, I'm going to champion Hasbro here, because price-wise, they've got it about right. So you've got the likes of Bandai, who make exceedingly good figures, and I cannot, because they do the figure arts ones, don't they? As well as the movie realization ranges, but they're not cheap. The quality is phenomenal, but they're aimed at the collectors. They're not at the mass market, whereas Hasbro have managed to bridge the gap between the mass market and the collector. The not the top end Hot Toys style collector. Although I do know people who have the Hot Toys who also have the Black Series. But it's a good price point to gain collectors.
Oh yeah.
And to also cater to the mass market, which is aimed at the children, obviously.
Yeah, we need to get them back playing with figures again.
So yeah, I think Hasbro are doing a good job. What I'm not happy with is the fact that they're ignoring markets outside of the US. That's my beef with Hasbro. It's not with what they produce; it's how they're marketing and distributing, or not.
Oh, totally, yeah. It does need sorting, but I think they recognise that. I think that's the next thing that they are going to sort out, hopefully. So which company would you like to take over that licence? I mean, you could think about Lego or Funko even, who are getting it right at the moment.
But I don't think Lego would move away. Their toys are construction, education related.
Oh yeah, I get that, but thinking about distribution.
Yes. Yeah. Funko, yeah, I didn't really think of Funko. Yeah, the Funko have come from nowhere and become something quite big. I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand how they've become so popular. I've got a few pieces, but I wouldn't say. Well, I've got a Chewie in the Scout Walker, which is quite a nice piece, but none of them feature in my collection as that's a really good piece. That other than the Chewie and the Scout Walker. So I don't know. I don't see Funko quality, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's just not for me.
Well, that'll just about do it for today, I think. Thank you so much for coming on. Been really enjoyable talking to you.
And you, thank you.
You'll have to come along again sometime soon.
Well, I'm happy to come along whenever you fancy it.
I might take you up on that and make it a regular thing. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
So all I've got left to say is, may the toys be with you.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.